Hello, I'm Robin and welcome to Molten Modular. So it's come to this. The day that I stick my head right into the guts of the Disting. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, the Disting is an extraordinary module from Expert Sleepers. It's a module that I've wrestled with my entire modular life. It's something that I found extraordinarily useful at times and maddeningly frustrating. It's the sort of module that you just want to burn with fire, and then you go, oh, well, no, this is incredibly useful. I can use this here, there, and also over here. It's the Marmite of modules, is what it is. In fact, interestingly, I put out a few fairly provocative social media posts about my working with the Disting, and it's really interesting to see the responses. And they were very much split. You get on the one hand people going, oh no, it's fantastic, I love the thing, I have 7 of them in my rig, all of them packed into different things, doing different things, it's the most extraordinary thing you have ever encountered, I can't believe that my life existed without them, that kind of thing. And other people going, oh my god, I sold it so quickly, it was the worst thing I'd ever used. Oh, my mind melted and it just made me angry. You know, I had to kick the dog, all sorts of things. So we have this two approaches, 2 ways of viewing what is just an itty-bitty Eurorack module. So what am I talking about? Talking about this. This is the Disting EX. It is essentially 2 Disting Mark IVs put together and then combined to make it greater than the sum of its parts. This is the Disting Mark IV, which I've had for some time. It's one of the early modules that I got when I first started out in modular because it is so phenomenally useful. Now, to try to sum up what these are in a nutshell, you could see them as every module you could possibly want. So within here, digitally coded, are a bunch of algorithms, and those algorithms are essentially, because it gets complicated really quickly. It will always be complicated. There's no way out of the complexity. We just have to try to move through it. You know, the language, the use of terms, the parameters, the fiddliness, the sockets, then are going to get to all of that in a little bit. But back to my nutshell bit. So within the Disting Mark IV, this is, are dozens of different modules. So what does that actually mean? So if you want a VCO, it's got a VCO in here. It's got a wavetable oscillator. It's got a virtual analog oscillator because it's all digital. It's all digital. It's got sample and hold. It's got LFOs, modulation. It's got reverbs, delays, choruses. It's got clocks, quantization. It has the ability to shift register. It has the ability to take in stuff and stick it out in a different way. It handles CV. It generates CV. It also generates audio, handles audio, affects audio, changes audio. The thing that I used it for initially, I used it as a sample and hold because I didn't have a module that had that. And I think a lot of people's story with the Disting is that they got it because they were exploring modular and they wanted to try some things out first because this already has it. So if you have one of these in your kit, before you go out and buy a particular module, particularly utility ones, particularly the nuts and bolts sort of stuff, you can try it out first with this to see whether it's a patch that's going to be interesting, to see whether sample and holding is going to be interesting in your system, to see whether some randomization is going to be interesting, to see whether you need another LFO. And people use this as part of a patch and go, oh yeah, that's really great, and then probably buy the thing that this is emulating. And so it's a way of testing out a patch which then leads you into purchasing something to replace the thing that this was doing, which kind of sounds odd, but that's the reality of it, I think, because, well, one of the reasons for that, which I will demonstrate as we go, is that it's a little bugger to use. It really is. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no smoothing it out of the way. It is the menu system of Satan. Now, I've thought about this a lot, and I thought about, is there any way to make this a simpler exercise, to make the menu diving simpler, easier, or to remove it completely? And no, there really isn't. Not in this sort of form factor, not in this size, not with the amount of possibilities that it offers and the way that it has to be super, super versatile in order to function. And so, our little friends, we are stuck with the menu system. That's all there is to it. So if the menu system offends you, then you're just not going to get on, I don't suppose. But the menu system offends me greatly. However, I've decided, through encouragement from Signal Sounds and Expert Sleepers who have sent me this module, to give it another go and to see if there's anything in here that I will find thrilling, interesting, fascinating. That's the plan. That's the ultimate aim, is to pull something out of here which is useful to me, that I can demonstrate to you, because within this module is an extraordinary amount of beauty. Now, in particular, with the Disting EX, as I say, it's two of these. See, it's two of those side by side. But it's also more than that, because of the enhanced processing power, memory, whatever it is, bits and pieces on the PCB in here. It's able to combine the power of those two things and to do some extra stuff. And those extras, those additional bits of functionality, are perhaps what interest me the most. Now, it's always going to be useful as a pair of distings, always. I mean, the other day I wired it up as 4 VCOs and used it to create chords. It has a dual VCO algorithm which produces 2 wavetables out of each side, giving you 4 in total. You can use them via pitch, and that's phenomenal. I'll also use it occasionally as a reverb, sometimes as a delay, other bits and pieces. But I'm going to look at the large single combined algorithms primarily in here, and maybe only 1 or 2 of them, because the difficulty with doing a video on this module is that there's too much. There's far too much to cover. There's no way you're going to go through each of the algorithms and talk about whether it's good or it's bad. That's just ultimately pointless. So you have to approach it with a desire to do a thing. And does it do that thing? And how well does that work? That's really what you have to do. Because where this shines, I think, is in finding that thing that you want to do, and then setting it up to do that thing. Because what you don't want to be doing is browsing, thinking, oh, what should I do? Should I do a bit of this? Should I do a bit of that? Because that is when the menu starts to cripple you, and your fury starts to build, and you turn inward, and you just go, I just want to, and it becomes overwhelming, I think. So it's not a browsing sort of module. Oh, what effect shall I use today? Oh, maybe I'll use it as a precision adder. Should I do that? Let me dial in that algorithm. I just want to kill everyone in the world. Yeah, no, it's not that. You find the thing you want, you find it in the manual, you dial in the algorithm, you work on those parameters, you decide whether you're going to modulate or not modulate, you decide if you'll plug things in or plug things out, and how you're going to patch it. You do all of that, and then it is a fully functional, awesome, powerful little module in your patch, in your system, and you use it for that until you want to go and do something else, and then you work on it differently. So that, I think, does that help in summing up? Nutshells, I do things in massive nutshells. My nutshells are huge, in which I fill with a load of old ranting. So, how are we going to do this then? What's best? Well, I mean, I think ultimately my plan is, what interests me about the Disting EX in particular is the multisample instrument, the polyphonic wavetables, the audio recording I think is very interesting, and also the ability to create your own sampled instruments. So that's really what I'm going to focus on. I could focus on all sorts of things. There are endless possibilities. But that for me are the perhaps the standout features for what I want to do and what I could potentially use it for. And so that is going to be my focus without getting it all out of hand. Now, I've been using this for a little while, so I've gotten the hang of the bits that I want to do, and those are the bits I'm going to demonstrate to you. I've also run into some problems that I will also show you, because this is a warts and all. I'm not I'm not going to smooth over anything. Sorry, expert sleepers. I'm just going to have to show it how it is. And some of the things are not pretty, some of the things are awesome. Again, that is seemingly the nature of this beast. But I'll also be doing stuff that I haven't done yet. So I haven't done any sampling into it. I thought we could discover that together. That seemed like an interesting thing to achieve. But before we do anything else, we're going to have to address the screen. So I'm just going to plug it in so I can show you this a little bit. So, I mean, obviously you're over there. I can't, this is as close as my cable goes. I don't have a really long cable for this one. But, and I will bring in the camera later. I'm just talking about it now, all right? God, yeah, I don't know. So this is the screen. It's a lovely little OLED screen sitting in here, and you move these things about, and sometimes things happen, sometimes they don't, because you can never remember what the knobs do at the particular time you're using it. But this is vital. I mean, on this, right, you have this weird scrolling dot matrix thing at the top where you're going, that says what does it say? Is it scrolling past? That says algorithm A something, you know. It was a nightmare. I mean, it was better than the Mark III, which was just some cryptic dots in some kind of binary shift register. So it was better than that, but it was still flipping difficult. So this is awesome. However, it's very, very small, very tiny, and it does strain after a while. And I have to be a particular... Oh, non-recoverable error. Oh, arse. That's probably been my fingers on it. Oh, dear. So that's great, that is. Non-recoverable error. Okay, right, so having another go. Da, da, da. All right, it's all better again now. So we've just got to be careful what I put my fingers on behind the scenes. So, yeah, so we're going to have to do something about that screen. And one of the things that people said when I was talking about tackling the Disting is that I must get the larger screen. Larger screen. I said, what larger screen is that? Apparently, you can get a little screen like this big that will go into a 1U row and display the display. And I said, well, that's brilliant. Let's do that. So that's what we're going to do. Now, in some ways, it makes you feel that, well, maybe this wasn't thought out very well. If it only really comes alive when you get an extra screen for it, then perhaps this was not a great design in the first place. It kind of makes you think that, oh, I've got to do a DIY project just to make the interface bearable. Well, I mean, of course that's not true. You can deal with this interface, that's fine. But it is small, it is fiddly, and so perhaps, particularly as I'm filming this, to make it a little bit clearer, I think it will be useful to have that screen. So the first thing we're going to do, even before we get any bloody sound out of this thing, is I'm going to show you how to build the screen. DIY over here, I've got all the bits, I'm ready to go. I mean, let's do that. I've got to start somewhere, haven't you? Let's do that. Okay, so here I am over in my squashed DIY corner, because this is a kit. You can't just buy the thing that we need. We have to build it. There you go. It's under there like that. I mean, it's not very exciting. There's not a whole lot going on. So this appears to be the screen. PCB. These are going to go together. So the plan is to put some solder on a leg, and then put this on. Reflow the solder, see what happens. So that's the plan. Solder and heat. So put some heat on that pad. Put a bit of solder on. So again, I'm heating up the pad, heating up the solder, putting that on, releasing. And that's going to go like that. So try to heat the leg and the pad, or the ring, whatever you want to call it. So now we have to connect the two together. Like so. So on the Disting EX, the connections are mainly made to the FHX expansion header. Got it, right. Ground to DC on there. S clock, S din, BCS, which is number 3 on that side. That goes into there. So that's the connection. This is what it looks like. Yeah, it's a little bit kind of workshopy, ad hoc. You don't feel like this is the sort of thing you're going to have going on in your performance case. Great. So we'll plug this back into the case and do it and do that and do that and actually get something out of it. Actually get something out of the Disting EX. That's the plan. Good. However, before we do that, while I'm here at my desk, there's another thing to make, and that is this. This is the tiny MIDI Breakout. Now there's a couple of different breakout options for MIDI for the Disting, I believe. Why do you need MIDI? Well, because it can also do MIDI stuff, particularly if we're looking at it for a polyphonic synthesizer. Then playing it from modular via analog can be tricky, although I have a fantastic solution for that. But it might also be nice to play it as an instrument from a keyboard, and so having a MIDI breakout for it could be great. It also has some other things that MIDI might be useful for control, for I can't think of other things, but hey, let's build the MIDI breakout while we're sitting here, and we can have that as an additional extra. So here's the kit. Now again, Thonk do the kit for this. You might be able to buy and put together your own one separately. I have no idea, but Thonk do it. Comes with quite a smart 2 HP little panel. 2, 6. Great. Super. Did that. Place and solder the headers on the back of the PCB. Make sure they are flush. I think you should just solder them. I don't think you should even worry too much about. So obviously if you can get it flush, then all the better. Lovely. So then put the green sockets on the opposite side so you can see it on the screen print where they need to go. So the guide recommends putting the panel on first and securing it with the nut. We're going to be soldering. Right, that looks perfectly fine to me. I've got the MIDI connection here, so I'm going to go 1 and 2, and grey is going to go to the tip. 4 goes to the ring. Alright, change of plan then. I'm going to swap all of this down to the bottom. So now on my here, I've got input right at the bottom, output there. That makes sense to me. Right, so let's try to get our expanded garbage into the hole. Now the Disting EX is pretty deep. Pretty deep. Worth knowing that, because it's not always going to fit in every slimline case. I mean, in this one, my Bafako case here, it just barely fits if you put it against the power supply as I am here. Obviously somewhere else in the case it would be better, but for some reason this is where I want to put it, and so I'm going to go with it. So before I wire this in seriously, oh no, that's come undone. Let's just plug it in and test that the screen is working. I think that would be a good plan. Alright, so what am I doing? So yeah, right, so let's plug the cable in. It has the super wide power cable, not just the regular one. So we need this. I mean, we just need to be able to see it, right? Just need to be able to see it. We can see it. So let's turn it on. Alright. Oh, hey, look at that! That's fantastic. So there was definitely something there. Definitely something there. And I'm not going to be contending with that. But, so I got a flash to say that it was kind of working, but I got nothing more than that. And that, I think, is because there's something I need to turn on in the Disting itself. Let's screw it in and just assume that's all just going to be fine. Can I do all of this without having to unhitch it all? Let's see if I can sort of. Just going to unplug the screen because that's not sort of fixed in any way. That's a better idea. Go on. Get out of the way. Come on. Yes. All right, and see that looks there. Let's see that fits there quite nicely. I bet my oh, well, maybe these are going to help a little bit. I feel that perhaps the knurlies are going to be too tall for it. No, that's good. That's the plan. Looking good. Okay, next to that, I'm just putting this in. Now, this is the Pianist from NOH Modular, which is an extraordinary little module, which I'm going to be using with the Disting. Then let's put the screen back on. Beautiful. Right, so one thing I know is that the firmware is slightly out of date. So the next thing we're going to do in this enormous video of not actually getting to do what the module does is update the firmware. So the firmware is updated by copying it onto the micro SD card, which is there. So I'm going to turn it off in order to do that, because I don't know whether I should be or not. So this little bugger in here, there you go, should be able to come out like that, and through the magic of adapters I should be able to plug this in to my surface over here. Okay, this is the Disting EX manual. It is 217 pages. 217! It just goes on and on and on forever. I mean, this is the contents, right? The contents page. It gives you some idea of the potential complexity / versatility of this extraordinary module, and it doesn't even include, I don't think, all of the algorithms for the dual Disting Mark IV mode. Anyway, firmware is right down here at the end somewhere, and I have downloaded it. It's now on 1.24, I believe. I'm going to stick my card in the side in the hope that that will just appear magically. There we go. Good news. So this, all the folders on here, good lord, this is all of the samples and bits and pieces. That's quite extraordinary. So onto here, I'm going to copy the new 1.24 version. There she blows. That should be it. I mean, that's all that's required. So this goes back in the side somehow. And then we turn it on holding P. Okay, choose firmware. I've got 1.2 or 1.24. 1.24 I think is the one that I want. Press V to begin. V to begin. Flashing. Success. Press left encoder to reboot. I think that's P again, isn't it? .24. Fabulous. Okay, so I'm on the latest firmware. That's good. Now, how do I get the screen to work? So you can see this screen, yeah? No, you really can't. You can't. It's just there's no seeing it. Let's bring this in as close as we can. So in here, so there's going to be a lot of me fiddling around with this menu, because it's not that it's troublesome, it's just it has a way of itself. It has a way that it works, and it's not always intuitive. It's never intuitive, but it is what it is. So you don't want to do that. I want to use this. I want to go to settings, and then reset settings, calibration, favorites, MIDI something else, general settings. You see, I'm back around again now. Reset settings, general. Let's try general. Okay, look, contrast, enable second display. It's currently on off. Is that on? It's just disappeared. You know, I don't think it is. So let's try that again. So settings, general, enable second display. How do I turn that on? No, that just goes back. Ah! Enable second display. It says off. Oh, on. Turn the P. Turn X. See that? Okay, once you've selected it, turn P. Turn P. Don't press P. Turn P. Right. It should now be on. Visuals on primary. Visuals on second. I get a couple of different options there, but one on I think would be great. So let's go with that. But it doesn't appear to be. So settings, general, going to go back to the display. It is on, right? So I don't know. Just going to reboot. See if that helps. Yeah. There it is. There it is. It's come back out. There it is. Look. Look. Flipping working. So the key thing to select it and then reboot, turn it on and off again, you know, whatever it is that works in that regard, that's what you need to do. So what are we in? Who knows? Who knows what we're in? It doesn't matter. What we've got now is a working, functioning Disting EX. Now, I could spend hours, as I say, fiddling through different things to show you different things. Oh, well, that is rather nice, isn't it? But that's not going to be of any help to anyone. So instead, what I need to do is show you things that I've found that I like. And that primarily is around the multi-sample thing. So let's do that. I don't know what we're in or how to get it. Okay, so I will of course stumble through the menu system because I haven't been using it constantly for months and I haven't got the muscle memory down or any of that kind of stuff. It just is as it is. So the menu that you want is algorithms. Everything is about algorithms. So you navigate using these two top ones here really. This one takes you forward, this one takes you back. This is essentially changing the parameter, this is changing the value of that parameter. These two things, who knows what they do. We'll work that out as we go. So algorithms, you're going to press P to get into it, and then we have a choice of either choosing a single one, which is where you use the whole of the Disting EX as a single thing, an entity, combining all of the power of it into a single thing, or you go into dual mode where you've got two Disting Mark IVs side by side completely independently. So for the most part we're going to be looking at single, so we go there, press a thing, and then we can choose from one of the algorithms. The options you have are Matrix Mixer, Augustus Loop, SD Multisample, some triggers, wave recorder, multi-switch, looper, dream machine, filter bank, polywave table, granular, multi-effects, polycytic, quad envelope, convoluter, chord engine, microtuner tracker, macro oscillator, resonator, oscillator, MIDI player, spectral freeze, quad equalizer, module meets, and there we go, we're around. So there's 25 different algorithms in the super expanded version of the Disting. Ones that are interesting, perhaps. The spectral freeze apparently is very much like the endless processor. Poly FM, so you've got polyphonic FM synthesizer. MIDI player for playing MIDI files, I believe. Now macro oscillator 2 is immutable instruments Platts. The resonator is the rings, I believe, and macro oscillator is braids. So you've got those directly within here, which is pretty brilliant. I've also just remembered that the Poly FM is essentially a DX7. So though all those things are awesome, but for the moment what I'm interested in is the SD Multisample. So we're there, press the button and we're in, and it will load something up. Now how do we use it? Good question. And why is it that the first thing that loads is a flipping drum kit? But it doesn't matter. So these things here give you different inputs and outputs. The ones with white on are inputs. These are all inputs. These four down here are outputs. Now they have these fabulous light up jack sockets, which you'll see in a minute. But ultimately, how do you plug it in? Now there's a little bit of help for this. If you hold the V, it'll actually show you what all of these are. Now the K at the top confused me for a long time. It still confuses me a bit, but I've kind of come to the decision that the K doesn't mean anything other than perhaps key, because there's no K input, so I don't know what that's about. However, you've got a Z, X and Y, and if I turn it, I've also got A and B down here. Different sides to it. So what I can see, I've got a mix out here on A and B. So those are my outputs for sound. A mono mix here, and the gate input, obviously very, very, very important. Up the top, I've got another gate and a pitch here. So I've got pitch 1, so CV if you like, and gate, and also a control over sustain. So what I want to do is plug a sequencer or something into these two, wire in the outputs, and we should get something going on. I've got a sequencer right here. Let's do that. So if I set that running, that should make things happen. Now the sound output, you can see on the fabulous glowingness of these things that you're getting an output here because it's glowing. You can see that, and it's purple because it's flashing very, very fast, because it's showing positive and negative voltage. You get red for one and blue for the other, but of course if it's moving very fast at audio rate, you're going to get purple, so you get purple outputs. So I'm going to plug this into my stereo strip over here through the output bus. Hopefully we will be able to hear it. So super duper, here we are. We've got something playing. It's coming out of here, through my stereo strip to the output bus, and we're getting sound. Fantastic. So my intention behind using this is that I use the surface a lot, the qubit surface. And the surface provides me with like a stringy sound, also a bit of a Rhodesy sound that I can use within my patch. It's brilliant, it's simple, I like it, it's great. However, within here is a whole bunch of other really kind of interesting sounds of that kind of vibe, particularly a soft piano, which is what I hope to be able to dial in now, if I can remember. So the way that the system seems to work is so you've got to be careful what you're doing. So there's a whole load of parameters that you select with the P button, and then values you change with the V button. That's the general gist of it, right? Now the first 6 values for this are attenuverters. So they are effectively allow you to scale the inputs. Now the fact that they are the first 6 parameters I find a bit frustrating and annoying, because what I want to do is change the sound, but to get to that's parameter 7. Of course it is for parameter 7, well, obviously, which is the folder. I don't know why it's the folder in which it's selecting folders. Oh yeah, what it allows you to do is select folders which have samples in, I suppose. We're going to probably understand that better once we create our own. But for the moment, I'm just going to go to 7 and then change the value, and it gives us the different sounds you can load down here. There's a whole bunch of drum kits, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but there's a load from Spitfire Labs, which includes a soft piano, which is what I'm most interested in, which we'll get to. Alphabetical, isn't it? Alphabetical. Scary strings, soft piano. There we go, that's what I want. To load it, I press V. And there it is. Now that in itself is beautiful. and worthwhile within the context of having a sound source within your modular. That is just a beautiful thing to have floating around, that you can put through some granular stuff, you can put it through a delay, some lovely reverb, just deepen the reverb on that. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I'm completely chuffed that I've worked out how to get to it, to make it happen, and all of that stuff. Just very, very, very simply. Now there's a bunch of other parameters, of course. You've got control over the envelope, attack, decay, sustain, release, the octave sort of tuning and transposing. You've got some saturation you can add to the output, all sorts of things. You can also set up another voice, because it's actually 3-part multi-timbral, which is pretty awesome. It has a chord thing inside, an arpeggiator inside, which we'll get to in a minute. Oh yes, here's folder 2, before I was looking at voices, which does some different things. So I've got another 2 folder options to load other samples. And then there's also things like a delay. I'm accidentally using this knob here, and this is a pot as opposed to an encoder, which sometimes gives you a little bit more granularity, a bit more accuracy, rather than the encoder, which fills step at a time, whereas this is a bit more of a wang one way, wang the other, and that can be a good thing. So hopefully you can already start to get a glimmer of why this is a beautiful module. Now there's all sorts of things, there's stuff, tons of stuff I'm not going to cover, like how you can map these inputs to different parameters in order to generate, or order to modulate it. You can put things in and control them. All of that is completely possible, and I'm not going to go into any of that at all. I'm going to go into the bits that I like, right? So I'm going to come back to the second folder, and I'm going to load another sound and see whether we can include that in our little sequence. So if I'm going to come up to some strings, I think. Let's go for that. It does always interrupt when you're loading samples. Now the question is, how do I address it? Currently I've only got pitch 1 and gate 1, so I'm going to need to change the inputs in order to do that. So to do that I'm going to need to find the parameter that allows me to. So in here somewhere, input mode currently has gone 1 CV and gate input. If I put it up to the next one, I've now got 2 CV and gate inputs. So I believe I can take that in there, and this, a second sequence from the ASQ1. And I have 2 things going on. Yeah, no, the strings aren't really doing it for me, so let's see if we can find something else. Let's try the music box. fantastic. Okay, that's interesting. So sustaining here is probably referring to a pedal. So I think one of these inputs here is sustain. You can turn that on and it just gives it a momentary hold. Oh, this is beautiful. Just totally beautiful. So okay, here's the envelope side of things. I could add some release. Go, I can get completely lost in this, but there's more. Oh yes, there's more. Now, an alternative way of using it is to try to inject some polyphony. So at the moment I'm just using one sound at a time, although they are overlapping and so showing or demonstrating their polyphony in that regard. It has a chord mode which enables us to generate chords rather than individual pitches. So let's see if we can find that. Chord. So chord enable, turn that on. Chord enable gate 1, 2, there's different ones. Gates 1 and 2, oh goodness. I don't know, let's turn it on and see what happens. Nothing at all. Okay, something is going on, definitely. So it's in C. So here we go. So we've discovered our way into the chord shape. It's now playing octaves. So we can choose a chord shape. And play around with that. Interesting. So let's go to the next bit, which is arpeggiation. Let's see whether we can get that to work at the same time. Okay. Hold it together. Alright, did you hear that? Okay, sadly, there is a bit of a problem that I've encountered. I wondered, and I've been wondering whether the firmware update would solve it, but it hasn't. So there is a little bit of an issue with the SD card, and that is something that we're sadly going to have to tackle. There it goes again. Okay, we will come back to the beauty of this. I think it's really important to address this SD card issue. So sorry and everything, but it's a bit of a problem. So what am I talking about? So the problem is that when you're using it as an SD multisample, which is my primary desire, is to use it for multi-samples, is that all the samples are read off the card and they're streamed from the card in real time. Now, unfortunately, the card, it seems, is not fast enough to do that. Why would that happen? Why would we be in a situation where that's not working? This is the card that came with the module, so it should work, right? Yeah, it should, but unfortunately they don't. This is something that I don't quite fully understand. I thought it'd be better if we talked about this face to face, so that I can gesticulate, things like that. So the SD card then. So I had this problem. It kept sort of crapping out, and so I went on some forums and had a look and spoke to a few people, and they said, oh yeah, there's a possibility that the card just isn't quite fast enough, and if you get a different card, then it will all just kind of work. And it's like, oh, but why doesn't it work? Why doesn't it just work? I mean, I spoke to Oz at Expert Sleepers about this, and he said, oh yeah, well, the specs on SD cards are published at being certain speeds and certain things, when in actuality the cards themselves don't necessarily meet the specs that they claim that they do, which means that potentially the card is not actually going to perform as advertised. And this, I don't quite know what to do with that, because it must be possible to do the thing that it's designed to do with the correct card, in which case there must be correct cards out there. And why is it necessary for the customer to have to find the right card to do the thing that the module is advertised as doing? It's just slightly frustrating, and I felt it's important just to talk about this, but also show our way out, because I believe there is a way out. I haven't worked that out myself yet, but my understanding is that if I get a better card, stick all the library on that, then it's all going to be golden, as it were. So let's do that in real time, live. So I got another card. So what is the card that's in there? And why is it causing trouble? So the card is, can't even bloody read that. What does that say? So this is a Kingston Canvas Select Plus card. And apparently it is advertised as doing all the right stuff. So the manual says that in theory any micro SD card will work, but in practice there's a huge variety of cards on the market. We can't possibly test them all. Fair enough. And the problem is that the Disting EX accesses the card in SPI mode, and so can never achieve the rated speed of the card, which assumes full SD bus access. It can, however, use high speed mode where available to double the throughput. Unfortunately, whether a given card supports high speed mode over SPI seems to be hard to gauge from the specs. Are you getting me? And so it suggests that a card that doesn't support that will work fine for firmware updates and for loading presets and wavetables and bits and pieces, but not for real-time streaming of stuff. Now that's all well and good, and that's all fine. I understand some of that, but why do I have a card in my Disting that isn't up to scratch? That is the worry. For me, I don't understand that. But regardless, I don't want to dwell on something which is obviously painful for expert sleepers, but something needs to be done, I feel, to sort that out, because even when I complained about it, Expert Sleepers didn't send me another card. They suggested I go get another card. So here I am. I've got one on the websites, the support website, people were talking about different cards that they've got, and this is a Delkin one I've got. You can read that there. This is the card I'm going to go for. So my plan is to copy everything that's on this card onto the computer and then sort that one out. So first of all, I've backed up the existing card and stuck that in a folder on my desktop. So I've got everything there that I can copy back across to the new card. Okay, so I've got a new card, stick that in there. Now, Oz instructed me to make sure that I formatted it in a particular way. So it was here on this SD memory card formatter site I've been sent to, sdcard.org, formatter for Windows, blah 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 blah, SD card formatter for Windows, download. So SD card formatter, select card. It's only letting me do it in there. It's detected the type. Quick format, overwrite format. I have no idea. What should I do? Call it the Disting for fun. Let's go with it. Formatting failed. Okay, for various reasons it didn't work on here, but it worked on my normal computer, so I'm just going to go with the fact that it does work, and going through this crazy adapter thing over here is probably not helping. So what I'm going to do now is copy the entirety of the Disting folder to this, which of course will take some time, and we'll come back and we'll plug it in and it'll all just work beautifully. Okay, we're all plugged in again. Rock and roll. Okay, it should find its way back to what you were doing, which appears to be right. Also use a different gate in order to make the arpeggiators work slightly differently. Now it appears, as far as I can tell, to be working beautifully. So far, let's go with so far. That's good enough for me. Maybe what we should do is try a couple of alternative sounds. Cool. So, doing something else then, I wanted to move into using polyphony with the Pianist. So that was generating chords within itself, which was great, and then arpeggiating those, which was also great. Now we're going to take the Pianist, plug that in to play everything polyphonically from CV. That's the plan, right? That's the plan. So to do this, we have to go back to input mode. Going through. It was there somewhere. There we go, input mode. And for this, we want 4 CVs. 4 CVs, 1 gate. So 1 gate creating the chord, but 4 actual pitches going in. That's what we're after. So for that, we've got pitch 1 is Z. We've got... so these are just the... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 really is almost like at every step the disting is just trying to trip you up. Just going to give you a little poke, just going to tie your shoelaces together just to make it that little bit more difficult. So what am I saying? So there's a pitch going in here, and here. Those 4. So from that I need to pull out these first 4 here are what create the chord, or at least the first 4 parts of it. There are many different parts you can use. There's up to 8 outputs on this here Pianist thing. So I'm going to go 1, 2 in there, this one into that one, into there. So this is outputting CV out of here, CV into here, 4 different pitches in order to create a chord. The chords are created inside. I'm just very simply going to load up something which is already in there. I'm going to give that a clock, like so, and then set that running. The gate is Y this side there. Brilliant. Alright, let's go back to the piano sound that I want, although that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So let's go back to our arpeggiation now that we've got chords coming in. Now, of course, what we have is the arpeggiator is running to the gate input that's coming in. So it's running a little bit slow. So what we can do is, rather than having that gate go in, like we did before, stick in a faster gate from a clock. a beautiful, beautiful thing. Then we can go up to the delay again, put that in. There you are. No trouble. I've had not a glimmer. I've been loading up different things, messing around. All of those things would have previously caused me difficulty and glitching because of some problem with the SD card, whereas now it's all beautiful. Superb. Superb. Now, another thing to point out at this point is the presets. So when you've been fiddling about, when you've been trying to find a thing, do a thing, learn the controls, work out where the parameters are, and craft what it is that you want from this thing, you can then save it as a preset. And that is completely vital, because otherwise you will spend so much time in here that you'll want to die trying to find all the bits every time you go back in. So let's see if we can find the presets. There they are. Now when you first get it, there are no presets at all, which I found a little bit disconcerting. I would have liked there to have been just a couple of examples of things perhaps that would already be set up for you, but then of course you would have no idea what it was that was set up because there's so many possibilities. So that's just my own preconception that was being troubled there. So you go into presets, load a preset. Now I've got a few already set up. I've got my basic multi-sample piano sound. I've got a chord version of that. I've got the arpeggiated version of that. I've got an arpeggiation with delay, and then I've also got a drum kit put in. So those have been as far as I've got and far as presets go. So I can load up the chord one, for instance. No, that's not how you do it. You do it by this button, perhaps. Oh, are you sure? Yes. So that's the chord version. Let's go to the ARP version. Now if the sound is already loaded, it's only the parameters that change, so it doesn't have to reload the sound. So you can actually swap between presets without there being an interruption to the sound, which is great. It's truly wonderful. Let's, just for fun, right, let's try some of the other algorithms. Some of the other synth algorithms. So we're going to choose a single, and this time we're going to go to the poly wavetable. Alright, see how this goes. So in the poly wavetable you can choose different waveforms. You've got a whole load of different ones, and then you've got some morphing between them with this knob here. Now I just should probably check to see what the input is like. Input mode, yeah, we need that changed. Here we go, that's what we want. Now we currently have X here set up to control sustain, turning sustain on and off. What we would like to do, I think, is make that modulate the wave shape. I have no idea how you do that. Shall we see whether we can fumble our way through? What do you reckon? Do you think that's possible? So, am I going to find it here? Don't think I am. That's quite nice. So I'm going to come out, going to go to Mappings, CV Mappings. Wavetable, wave offset, wave spread, chords tuning, waves offset. It's got to be wavetable, isn't it? Input 1, 2, 3. So that could be working. Could be working. So let's take a modulation source, plug it into 3. Okay, that is working, but what it's doing is selecting the wavetable. It's not altering the thing. So let's not do that. Let's work this out. It's not wavetable, is it wave offset? Maybe it is. So let's go back to 7, put that on nothing. So I think it's also still sustain. So let's put that back to there. Sustain level note. This, input 3. Put that down to nothing. So I've now just put in an LFO into input 3, and it's gradually and slowly but surely moving the wavetable. Which is nice, that's nice. See, I'm really starting to move around in here now, finding things that I know that I want. So another preset I put in was a drum kit, which is all perfectly set up to receive drums from somewhere. I've got over here Making Sound Machine stopper beats. If I set that running, I can put a kick into, I forget how I did it. No, there we go. Snare into there. Actually no, that is the snare. That's the snare. Where's the kick? A drum machine. Simple, easy. Anyway, we can get lost into different algorithms without any bother at all. But the thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to capture the Taiga synthesizer that I've got over there into here as a thing. I wanted to be able to do that. And I felt that if I could do that, I felt I would have got a certain amount of depth and usefulness out of the Disting EX. So in order to do that, we're going to have to use a bit of MIDI, going to have to read the manual. This could take some time, but perhaps a good way into that would be to plug a MIDI keyboard in, just to see that I've got my MIDI expansion here working properly. Now, I had a MIDI cable, which I thought was this. I thought this might be MIDI A. So I'm going to plug that into the bottom. And with some luck, like a huge amount of luck, I'm going to plug in a MIDI cable and that's just going to work. Okay, nothing so far. Now, before I panic, let's check to see whether it's on the input mode. I have to change this to something like MIDI. No CV gate, input mode. No, doesn't appear to be anything there. Now it could be that this thing that I've plugged in here is not the right, this thing here is not the right one, because I don't know, I got so confused over the whole MIDI thing that I have no idea what is A and B anymore. I mean, this one says A on it and I thought I set it to type A, but I'm not getting anything. Not getting anything. Well, if I take this out, so you've got to swap the ring and the tip. Right, so swap those round, in other words. There we go, there we go. Okay, so all of my what's its are the other way around. Okay, fair enough, whatever. They're all type B. So I'm playing this all from the keyboard. So now I have become a master of the SD multi-sampling side of things. I now wish to create my own instrument using Pittsburgh Modular Taiga over there. Why? Well, I don't know. It seems like an awesome thing to do. The idea is that the Disting can automatically, hands-free, essentially, sample an instrument for you so it's ready to play. That sounds pretty bloody exciting to me. So let's do that, and then I feel we would have really gotten somewhere. So in the manual, it's on page 54, something like that. It says, creating your own multi-samples. So creating new sample sets is simply a matter of collecting WAV files in a folder onto the SD card. Now I don't want to do that. I want to sample directly in. It says the Disting EX's own wave recorder algorithm includes auto sampling functionality, which will automatically sample any instrument it can trigger via CV gate or MIDI. The files it records to the micro SD card are named correctly for this algorithm. Does it give us any more than that? No, not really. That's your lot. Okay, so bear with me. So let me go to algorithms, single, wave recorder. Okay, I've got input gain, sample rate, bit depth, channels, CV record mode, play as a loop, outputs, AS enable, which I imagine is auto sampling enable, start note and end note, note step, velocity, round robins, stuff. There's all sorts of stuff in there. Right, we're going to try to make this up. So if I enable it, what actually happens? I don't know. So what I probably need to do is make a sound on the Taiga, get that ready, get that plugged in, and then maybe see how we go. Yeah, Taiga. going for that sort of sound. And then we'll be able to play it like as chords and stuff. So it's going to be potentially very, very cool. I'll have to work out the next bit. So this is the output of the Taiga. And according to this, input is X and Y on the left. X and Y. I wonder whether there's a level check. That's probably going to be important, isn't it? Input gain. I wonder how we know. How do we know? How could you possibly know? Input gain, sample rate, bit depth, that's all good. Record, play mode, outputs 1 and 2 are through and play. So if I go to input gain and then press something on the keyboard, doesn't seem terribly loud, does it? Not too much. Let's go for that. Let's not sort of overdo it, perhaps. I don't know. Let's go. Keep going. So that's the input gain, sample rate, bit depth. That's all fine. Then I do it in stereo. So we then get to AS enable. We need to enable that. The start note is how low, where it starts from. End note is how high. So the range of notes you're going to be sampling. Note steps, so that's suggesting every single note. I don't think we need to do that, so I'm going to stick that up to say every 5 notes, and then it can do the sampling thing where it pitch shifts in order to go up and down. Velocity, I don't know what that means. Round robins, I don't know. Coarse, fine tuning, the gap between each note. It's a good question. I think this can also be tested, so it's going to just fire a note. But what I now need to do is plug MIDI into it, because that will allow me to see how that's going to work. So I'm going to take MIDI over to the Taiga, MIDI in. Alright, so that's MIDI in. Now MIDI out should be on that output there. So if I press the R, it's testing the timing. That seems to be times milliseconds. Is that giving me a 538? So I think that should be 5 or 6 times. I don't know. Okay, let's go with it. I think that might be what that means. Latency, don't need to worry about. Everything else is through routing, not going to worry about that. So with a bit of luck, all I do is press the L button and it will just do it. It will just do it. It says it will just do it. Let's just see if that works. Alright, a bit high. Didn't need to go that high. Okay, that's done. I wonder what happens next. So let's go back out to our algorithms, single, SD multisample, and choose, there we go, auto, 1. Let's put this back into the input. And just like that, look, I'm playing here, look. Isn't that awesome? Well, that is totally ace. I wonder how I'd call it something. I guess I can save it as a preset. I guess that's what I do. I guess it's just going to be called auto something, but if I go to presets, save preset, go to the last one I've got empty, save the preset, then go back to presets, name preset. I can then call it st, oh no, name preset, that one, let's call it that. Did I get that right? No, I didn't. Which bloody button do you press? I just forget. It drives me nuts sometimes. Okay, name preset. See, it's there. Or maybe I did name it. I don't know. Load preset. Still says initi. No, presets. Load. No. Name presets. Okay, I've named it. I think that's all right. I think if I then come out of that, no, it's still called init. Go back to this. Load preset. So let me come back out of that. Name preset. Load preset. Name preset. Taiga 1. I've named it Taiga 1. Can I press that? Then I need to save it again. That's what I need to do. I need to save it again. Yes. Now it's called Taiga 1. Got it! We got there. We fought our way through. Yes, we did. And actually, I don't want that release time quite so high. So let's save that again. Excellent. Brilliant. Totally brilliant. So the Disting EX then, it's quite a creature, I think. And I've found it pretty fascinating. I've found there's like this balance between frustration, between intention, wanting to get in there, wanting to find the things that I need within it. And I feel like I've battled through that a little bit. It's not been an easy road, not at all. And I can see absolutely why people get so far and then just go, sod it, I just can't be bothered with this. And I think that can be my experience to some degree, because I am undoubtedly a person who prefers one knob per function. That's always what I'm looking for. That's always what I prefer. And so as soon as I'm having to go through levels and going through menus, my mind just goes, no, I don't want it. Because I've done that. I've done that for 30 years in a computer, you know. And my mind no longer wants to have to deal with those sorts of things. However, from time to time it becomes necessary, and I also understand that. The Disting makes it necessary. You can't intuit your way in. You can't just fiddle around and find a little thing and find that that's fun. No, that's not how this works, and that's not what the module is about. And it doesn't have to be about that. Not all modules have to be a one-use, one-function thing. And the Disting is not that. It is a multifunctional, multifaceted, no end of possibilities and versatility packed into it. So on the one hand, I have absolute sympathy for people who can't get on with it. And on the other, I'm really quite pleased with myself that I've got through and achieved some things that I wanted to achieve. First and foremost, finding that lovely multi-sampled sound source, because I can use that for all sorts of things. The included library, yeah, that ain't bad. It's not bad. A couple of strings, kind of a nice piano. You know, I can really use that. It can absolutely replace my Surface. And I was, funnily enough, I was going to use it at the Rack Records gig a couple of weeks ago. That was my plan. But I had the glitch with the card. It kept glitching out, so I couldn't use it. I couldn't trust it. Whereas now I feel that I've played with it for a few hours without a single murmur. So I think that is sorted, thankfully. But I definitely feel that I got into a place where I can use the thing for the things that I want it to. Now, there's tons of stuff in here that I haven't touched on, tons of other algorithms that might be for you. But the key to the Disting is finding the thing that you want to do and then doing that. And then making presets for it so you don't have to keep fiddling about. You can just find the thing that you need. The combination with something like the Pianist, generating chords, is fantastic. Its internal chord thing is good, you know, that's useful. But, you know, fiddly, trying to get in there in order to change chords is going to be difficult. That's why I quite like having a separate thing to do that. But there are a few other modules in Modular that can generate multiple chordal kind of things. Or you can just run different channels from a sequencer into it to create the same sort of thing in polyphony. Or you just use MIDI, use MIDI sequencing. Use something like the Chord Pilot from Modular to use it as a polyphonic sound source. And then, of course, it becomes much larger than itself, as is the auto sampling. I mean, I just had a quick look at the manual, a quick look at a video, just to make sure I had all my understanding correctly into what it was you were supposed to do. I plugged the thing in, pressed the button, and it sampled the Taiga. That was phenomenal. And I've got this really great little synth sound. Brilliant. I imagine I could be doing a whole lot more of that if one had the time. But I would certainly be interested in doing that. So overall, my feeling is that it's an awesome module, as I knew it was, with its difficult personality that you just have to work with. And if you're able to work with it, then it can reward you with all sorts of endless possibilities. I haven't even touched on the dual nature as being two Disting Mark IVs. There's tons and tons of algorithms. It could be filters, it could be delays, it could be chorus, it could be generators of LFOs and modulation, wavetables, precision adders, logic, clocks, whatever you want it to be, it can be that thing, which is amazing. Putting the screen is lovely. I love this additional screen. That's fantastic. And that does change your relationship with it, because the small screen does make you go, ah! It makes you grit your teeth as you're trying to see, particularly at my age where I can only really see it if I'm here. If I'm any closer, I can't see it. If I'm any further away, I can't see it. So this really, really helps with that and makes the whole experience with it much smoother. Now, it's crazy, really, that you need to expand it to a larger screen in order to use it properly. But hey, the potential of the Disting is so great that it's kind of a small price to pay. It doesn't cost very much either, and it's an easy build, as you saw me do. So there I am. I think I can absolutely continue my life never using the Disting again. And I can quite happily poke fun at it every time we talk about something being difficult to use. And that still remains. That has not been solved. It's still tricky to use. My point, I think, is that if you're prepared to put in a bit of time, you can find things within it which are amazing. And you can use consistently and constantly within your system. Save a couple of presets and you can return to those things quickly, easily, without having to fuss around in using the interface to achieve that very much. Just a little bit of fiddling. And that's okay. That tips the balance over to, yes, oh my goodness, this is useful, as opposed to, oh, I just want to die if I have to go down another menu level. So there you go. The Disting EX. Yeah. It's not for everyone, by golly, it's not for everyone. But if you do get hold of one, give it some time, give it some thought. And I hope that this exploration, this car crash through both its problems and its awesomeness has been helpful to you. And in the meantime, go and make some tunes.